Welcome, everyone. Dr. Thor here, continuing on number 3 of Witnesses. And I've pretty much detailed how you can make a witness, what witnesses are, how to get them down to a vibrational energy so they work the best. But there's also a major problem that always has been with witnesses and, in general, the way radionic type machines are built. And remember, we do have a course on this, which comes with the all-important, or not actually this, but an introductory course we have with the history and background. Lots of great information there. But come with all-important sigils, photos, which have all sorts of energies in them that you lay your particular photographs on, and you build your own little symbolic, very high-level symbolic machine by using what are called the CD tools. And don't get put off by the fact that they're CDs. They're great little tools, and we do offer them in MP3 if you want them that way as well. But you need the physical tool, and these are a great start. A lot more of that is coming. This is an intro. This is kind of a brief intro for people in general. It's kind of a service. Courses with videos and other things are available or will be on Patreon and All Access membership, which has our Radionic Institute in it. So very important to stay informed on all these things. And they're all very inexpensive. And for us to continue our development of these important tools, we're not researching, we're developing them. It's important that we have some basic support. And you support in this world where we have so little power. Vote with your pocketbook. That gives people power. Meaning support people. That's important. And don't support anybody else. Plain and simple. In general, everything else is a fraud out there, whether it's alternative radionics or the Red Cross and other places that are just really con groups with directors that make millions of dollars a year. So getting back in that, now one of the problems which is intrinsic within radionic machines is you're laying something onto a plate or a well. And there's really no difference. As I've mentioned, plates are a little better because you can put oddly shaped large items on the plates very easily. If you have a well, it means will something fit in there? Either one usually works, and plates, as I said, are a little better. They're easier to manufacture, etc. Now, we got to understand that if we're talking about the people who think in the old way, which is the electromagnetic way, well, there certainly isn't any electromagnetic in a piece of paper that you put on a particular well, whether that's a signature or a photograph, etc. There's no electromagnetic energy in there. So there's this transfer. How is it transferring? So, machines are built with our understanding of the flow of electromagnetic energy, or in general, electrical type energy. Now, humans are semi-electromagnetic in terms of the fact that we're like a chemical battery. Our body is full of chemicals. We do produce energy that way. It can be measured of how much electrical energy we put out. And this is generally very small amounts in the bigger picture. Some people claim it's larger if you take them. But the bottom line is that if you hook something up to a human and try and use them as a battery in a classical way, like a DC battery or the typical battery you put into some sort of device, you're not going to get very much energy there. So the fact that the human reality can do amazing things that are way beyond this burn something, make energy from it, use carbon or whatever, meaning we're using oil, etc., which is very inefficient, by the way. And the engines we use, internal combustion engines and even generators, they're all pretty inefficient when you think about it. So if you had to generate enough energy that would enable a person to go to, let's say, Saturn, like a lot of people have done in remote viewed, or anywhere in the earth. Let's say you wanted to remote view Australia and you're living in the US. Well, that's pretty far away. What is that, 6,000 miles? How much energy would it take to do that? Well, you have to build a plane, you have to put all this fuel on it, and it takes what? I don't know, from California it's at least 24 hours to get there. Well, think of the amount of energy that requires. So certainly the human could never even, I'm not sure a human could go more than 10 feet if it was physically based. So if you took your energy, converted it into some sort of movable device. So it's not even apples and oranges here. And if you keep thinking the electromagnetic, that we're some sort of engine, some sort of computer, this is all wrong. We're just trying to figure it out. It used to be that we were machines. And, you work like clockwork, like a machine. Now we're computers. Oh, we're like computers. We're not like any of that. We're just trying to compare something. AI and all these fraudulent stupidities will never get up to the human level. Processing information is not thinking. So it's not decision making. And if we turn ourselves over to a bunch of machines that just make decisions based on the stupidity, and of course, who is actually programming those machines? A bunch of psychotic mental cases, otherwise known as scientists and computer science people. Me never had a date all my life. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things you run into. We give them a lot of power, we pay them a lot of money, and that they are at the same consciousness level as the rest of society is, which is pretty much negative 50. So the whole idea is that a moron is negative 10, a scientist is negative 50. So we got to understand there's no morality, there's no understanding, they're following what's told to them, and they don't think. So they are, you can always tell a genius because they have ideas. Even if they don't work, well, we can do it this way. We can do it that way. Why don't we do something different? The scientist says, well, I've been taught in school to do this. This works. Well, it does work on a primitive level, maybe. But a lot of it doesn't, because you got to remember that physics and theoretical physicists are all just guessing. They're sitting around in a circle jerk talking about what could be. If I was Spider-Man. So these are the kind of things they think about. And I'm not sure you understand that. Just like with money, money isn't made from anywhere. It's just presented. The government says, here's money, it's good. Gives it to a bank, and that bank lends out that $1 probably a million times. That's really what it comes down to. So there's no such thing as money. And the game is played is that people make money off of you, lending you money when they don't own it, and it's not real. And it doesn't hurt the society if banks are not paid. This is ridiculous. It's made up stuff. What helps the economy is people who get money and spend it, which is the average people, not rich people who don't spend money. They already have everything. What are they going to buy? I need another 50 Rolls Royces. So the whole idea is that it just doesn't work like that. So this is this whole bogus system we live in. And you got to understand, the reason I talk about this is that it's also the bogus system of how everything works. You got to remember that radionics is an extremely high level of consciousness technology. You have to train yourself properly. You have to understand how the machines work if you want to get results. Now, 9 out of 10 people that get radionic machines don't get very good results from it. It's just as simple as that. The people I found that get good results from it, particularly going back 30 years ago, when we were all based more in the occult sciences, were people who were successful with doing different magical practices. When they got radionic machines, guess what? They got results. And the people who didn't get results using the occult sciences didn't get results using the machines. So they're very, very, of course, people don't understand that. People have a negativity towards what's called, quote, magic. But the bottom line is all magic is concentrated energy. The difference with radionics is that you're turning dials instead of lighting candles or making little energy forms. But it's all basically the same. What's interesting is it's almost identical. And we will talk about this, of course, in our courses and so forth. So as that come out in the future. And of course, hopefully you're a Patreon member and you're supporting us and you've joined All Access. Go up to the upper right of this YouTube channel and click on Patreon and click on our website. You can also contact us at the About page up there has our email. Go to the About page, scroll down to email, and nobody knows that this page exists on YouTube because nobody really looks around a site. They just, where's the video? So the whole idea is that, so if you do need to contact us, we're there. And we usually get back to people if it's not as long as it's a business day. We're closed Fridays through Sundays. So if you contact us Monday through Thursday, I'm usually getting back to you within a few hours because we monitor these things. We like to communicate with people and so forth. So Um, so it's not an electromagnetic. This is where everybody's gone wrong. And to think that, and of course, when you look at very advanced civilizations, ancient Atlantis, the Egyptians, I didn't see no electrical cords in ancient Egypt. Were there electrical cords there? Maybe I'm missing. Maybe that's what one of them things was there I tripped over in Egypt. It was really an extension cord. Well, it's not true. Extraterrestrials tend to build things out of, they're all consciousness-based machines. Everything is controlled through their consciousness. Why would you want to press a button? Why would you want to control? You know, can you imagine that? You're in space. Hey, Mitty Moo, we need to make a left turn here. I can't find the control. I was watching The Simpsons, and now look what's going on. We don't have the control. Well, I mean, isn't this kind of asinine? And one of the problems is when extraterrestrials want to explain something to you, it's like, eh? So the whole idea would be like going back to 1812 and showing a computer to somebody. They would just look at it and say, I have no idea what this is. And of course, if they were someone who was religious, that's from the diamonds. I don't understand it. It comes from the diamonds. You know, kind of like the religious people do today. Everything's from Satan that they can't understand because their God never gives you anything. All it gives you is pain and death. And if you're lucky, he'll take you up and put you on a marshmallow when you die. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things that are out there with the reality of it. So get away from the electromagnetic spectrum. This is what I've been pushing now for about 6 months to a year. I've always kind of talked about like this, but you know, with my further developments and finding out what is conducting energy, etc., is very important. Now, we use electronic devices as carrier tools. We also change the internal functioning of these electronic devices through our special processes so they can handle subtle energy. We're the only people that know how to do that. No one else does. It's not a chip. It's not electronic. So if you're going in that direction, you're completely wrong. All of these energies are kind of bogus. The bottom line is that the only people that try and strive for these things are kind of earth-based humans that don't get it. So consciousness is what moves everything. Now, consciousness didn't come from you because you are now this lump of human orgasm that now is turned into a kind of a thinking, acting structure. You connect with what are considered cosmic forces. These are the forces that manifest everything in the universe. It's semi-godlike, but gods don't come and help you. They never have, and we can see that. All the gods that did nothing for all the people in their societies that are gone. So societies did everything. They worship, they sacrifice, and nobody cares about them anymore. And little did they get at that time. The bottom line is the strongest military has always won, regardless of whom that was. You could be Genghis Khan, who conquered most of the world, certainly didn't do it under a Judeo-Christian belief system. They did it under their own. So certainly there was nobody protecting them, and if Genghis Khan didn't die, he probably would have taken all of Europe at that time with all the great leaders there as well. And we certainly see how that worked in the Crusades. Of course, it took a couple of 100 years, but the bottom line is that the Crusaders, the men of Jesus, all were unable to hold any land whatsoever. So when it really came down to it, that's what happened. They lost everything until other people came in that were tougher and stronger than them, such as there were different types, particularly with Sicily and other places, that the Normans came in, who were very vicious fighters. These were the basically descendants of the Vikings that didn't care about anybody or anything, and they were typically Norwegian, have no morality whatsoever, and they just fought for whoever paid them. So the whole idea is that this is what you get into. I should say Scandinavians, which have a long history of that. Not that anybody else is any better either. But the bottom line is that that's what we're looking at. So the whole idea is that we have this kind of non-electromagnetic. So I've described all this. What makes the universe up? What is subtle energy physics? It's all there. And what's funny about it is it makes 100% sense, plain and simple. And it is similar to, with some important slight variations, to what regular physicists are thinking is the way to do it. But we don't really know what they're thinking because they come up with new theories all the time because none of their old theories work. Then they sit down there and argue with each other, coming up with another theory that is unprovable, and it goes on and on and on. And that's, of course, what's been going on for pretty much 100 years now, probably 200 years. And then they grab somebody who can write something that sounds plausible. So the whole idea is that that's how the things work. So getting out of electromagnetic. So what is the problem? You take a photograph using one of your special Polaroid type pictures that you've made into a witness. Maybe you've made your own. Now, there's a certain amount of bioenergy in these things. They are radiating a little bit of energy. But since you're putting it through a system that is not designed to capture that, meaning you're laying it on metal, which you think you're getting this electromagnetic conduction, well, you're really not. But if you use pure metals, copper, silvers, gold, well, they pick up more than your traditional electromagnetic. People look at them, oh, well, these are fantastic conductors, as pretty much most metals are. But it's not conductors of electromagnetic energy that they're conducting. They're great conductors, particularly gold, of these subtle energy, physics energies, these informational energetic fields that are in everything that you mold into what you want. And once you've molded them or you have an energy, you then can transfer this to any person, place, or thing. It's as simple as that. So how do you get the energy into the machine? Well, everybody does this by laying it down. You also do that by laying it down on the so-called out plate or your rubbing plate, wherever the energy is supposed to go through. So it goes in the in plate and out the out plate. It goes through the wiring, the dials in series. And I talked about that as well in what to check first. So you've got to make sure that all your dials are flowing in the proper flow pattern that you've dialed them in. So dial 1, dial 2, etc. So the energy is supposed to go in that flow pattern. And if you don't dial them in that way, you get conflicting energies within your units and they don't work. Now the question is, a lot of people don't number their dials. This is a real problem. I just got some prototypes from someone. I said, look, you didn't number your dials. So it makes it confusing. The whole idea is, well, it does that. Well, the point is you should number your dials so there's no question. And you as a operator, a practitioner, don't want to think and break your energy cycle that where is 1, where is 2. You should just see it on there and know the flow pattern. So how does energy move through there and what happens to it as it moves through? But we'll get into that in other discussions. But we're talking about witnesses right now. So you lay it on there and you're getting a very modicum, a very terrible way of getting energy through the unit. But basically what's happening, it turns into, again, a psychic process. You're connecting to the witness, and then you're pushing it through the machine to get X kind of results. Well, this is just, again, bad technology. And because people are so ignorant in the actual hardware, the actual machinery of things, they don't think about any of this stuff. And they don't think about what you're pushing through there and how you do it. Well, the bottom line is that you have to get the energy in there. Now, this is part of, I did this 40 years ago, where I had lasers placed over the witness plate, and then I turn the laser on. That would push the energy from the witness into the machine and through the dials. Very important. And we're coming up with these advanced machines again, but we have technologies that are so advanced now that aren't dial units and so easy to use that you don't need a lot of that. But we use lasers all the time. Why? Because they work. Now, back then, we only had red lasers, and those used to cost hundreds of dollars just to get a simple little red laser. Now you can get very advanced, higher energy lasers, which are in the purple-blue spectrum, that pick up just about all of these subtle energies sitting there. So this is very good, and the cherry on top is the fact that they're cheap. But again, we use special processes on our lasers so that they are able to pick up more of these kind of subtle energies, which is a unique energy form. Your electromagnetic devices don't pick these things up well, and hardly at all. So what happens is it falls back. Instead of using the subtle energy that is inherent in everything, you're not using the technologies to grab these energies and use them properly, if at all. unless you have the right machinery. So what happens? It falls back into a psychic process. And the problem with the psychic process is that people are pathetically psychically weak. Some people are better than others. This is something that seems to be develops with practice. Some people are a little more empowered just on their own, and that's just the quote, the way they're quote wired, pun intended. So the whole idea is that some people have that naturally. But, it's never that high. It's just like Olympic athletes. Well, are they geniuses or not? They don't have to practice, do they? They don't practice 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. No Olympic athletes do that because they're just, hey, when's the meet? Oh, you show up here. Hey, I can run fast. That's natural. So the whole idea is that's not how it works. You hone everything. So when some people are very psychically powerful at certain times and other times they're not, that's because they haven't pumped the psychic muscle. They haven't built that, so when they need it, it's there. But most people need to practice. You need to practice with pendulums. You need to do this kind of work. And quite frankly, it's a lot of fun. It's fascinating to think that you can affect and create physical matter from your consciousness is mind-screwing. So you should just have a constant smile on your face of how wonderful this technology is and that you can access it and use it to change your life. You're creating something from what regular society considers nothing, but it's not nothing. You figured out how to use the ultimate energy of the universe, which all advanced civilizations do and have done even on this earth plane. The ancient civilizations of Mu and Atlantis, at least that's what they're called. I don't believe that was their original names, but the bottom line is that we have to use terminology that everybody calls it. So if I call it Green Acre Land, it's not going to mean anything to you. So the whole idea is that should conjure up certain feelings in you, these ancient societies that we have no idea how they did anything. So while we can build skyscrapers, which is quite an engineering feat, it's very practically based. So this amount of pressure goes here, you need this, you transfer the energy from here to there. So it is quite a development. I mean, to build a giant skyscraper and have these things stand up is quite amazing. So, and most of these buildings, I'm not aware of any of them having trouble, even that have been there for 100 years or more. So, they're built right, and they're quite amazing. But, they're just giant edifices of physical matter. But, of course, you got to do something with something. So we all just assume we get up in a 50-story building and they go fall down. So, and they don't unless they're dynamited. So the whole idea is that that's how things work. So, but that is still a primitive reality of doing things. Ultimately, those very advanced societies and those extraterrestrial who have the capacities to come here are using consciousness-based informational energetic fields to create matter that they then sit in and come hundreds, if not thousands, of light years in. And, they're a species like we are in terms of the fact, they have families, they think. Of course, a lot of these may not be what we consider people. I believe most of them are kind of cyborgs or biological entities that were created to do this. Because why would you want to go so far, so dangerous, and leave your family? I don't think there's anything different. Some people have families on the ship. They're giant ships. Space is kind of big, so you can make things really big there. So the whole idea is you could put entire civilizations in space. Nobody would even know they were there. And this is claimed to be true by many people. And we term it the Mothercraft, where everybody's at, where they do everything at. So it's been reported as facts, and I do believe it as well. That's what you would do. So it depends. Some people have left their planets because there are problems. So, and they put all their people on ships that they then go somewhere else or live on. Kind of like bad science fiction, but it's a reality. So we're talking about how do you get the energy. So if you lay something on, it's the stupidest way of doing things that we can. And of course, you got to remember when these units were built as a general technology, and they started in the late 40s when Delaware took over and worked with Ruth Drown. Apparently, Ruth Drown went to England after her harassment and set up or assisted Delaware in setting up the Radionic Institute, etc. This is the gossip. Again, I'm not sure it matters, but it does to a degree because she had a particular understanding of the typical technology. And of course, what we have of hers is all her junkiest, lowest line stuff, her boxes and stuff, which are very simplistic. They're just the typical flow pattern I've been discussing. And that's where she came up to. And she was quite an electronic person. She worked in electronic factories, built radios and other things from what I understand. So she knew what she was doing. Kind of odd for a woman to be that physical and to be involved in that industry. I don't know if that was part of World War II or she worked in some sort of electronic factory. But she, people don't give her that much credit that she deserves. But they didn't have a lot of stuff. They didn't have photon generators. They didn't have lasers in the 1940s. And as I've stated, just 20 years ago, you couldn't get a purple laser unless you spent $8,000. So I was unable to even buy one for myself. And secondly, I was obviously unable to offer these to the public because it means whatever the price of your unit, you got to add $8,000 onto it. This becomes a serious problem. And having expensive technology for a few people that want to afford it is not really something that I'm interested in doing. But we will have very advanced professional models that are probably going to be $15,000 to $20,000 when we get to these things. But that's not, I'm not sure that I'm trying to make by developing units that are affordable for the average person to use. And having super advanced stuff doesn't serve a purpose unless you're a practitioner like myself who has advanced stuff, or someone else who wants to use it in a practice. Or there's plenty of people that spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a car. I think they can afford 10 or 20 for a machine that could change their entire life and assist them to higher levels of consciousness and well-being. So there's a place for it, but that's not the only place. Then you're Elon Musk. Yeah, we built a $150,000 electric car, and they blow up. Yeah, it's fun. We love these batteries. So the whole idea is that, as far as I'm concerned, anybody can build an expensive product and offer it out there. Can you build a high quality product at a fair price? That's the key, and very few people can do that. So as we get back into that, that's the whole idea. So the whole idea is by laying a witness, and that includes taking that same witness and putting it on the out plate, is a very primitive way of energy going there. So what happens is you go from what you're looking for is the amplification and broadcasting, the amping up of energies so they work faster and more effective. What you've done is brought it down to a 100% psychic based. And as I've mentioned, psychic power, first of all, you burn your psychic power in less than 3 minutes. After that, you're done. Your core energy is gone. You're not transmitting any further. Psychic power is very intense, and you don't have a lot of it. Nobody does. You have to build up core energies. It's a whole process, and of course, we show you how to do that in our courses, particularly our centering course, and of course, the psychic occult gym course shows you how to do all that. So, very critical, because you're going to fall into this psychic realm a lot. Now, we're trying to get over that, so you use your psychic power to kind of get the process going, kickstart it, get it moving, get it into the energies that then start to amplify it and broadcast. Very, very important that you move on to that. So that is a very stupid way of doing things. But as I said, back in the 30s, 40s, and of course, Ruth Drown went over there, I believe, was the late 40s. Just after the war, met Della Warren, and until I researched it further, but apparently she got the Radionic Institute that he started over there. Della Warren started it over there, and she was instrumental in telling him how to do everything. And his machines, when you get Della Warren machines, and I have several different models of him, original ones from the 40s and 50s, they are identical to Ruth Drown's units that she produced. So, and there's all sorts of other things that are just mind-blowing. How about a radionic camera where it takes pictures and images? Really fascinating, but you got to know what you're doing, and it becomes to this consciousness process. And I won't get into that now because these talks get too long because I get into other subjects. But she went over there and did that, and they didn't have lasers. They didn't have any ways of moving the energy into it. All of this stuff, how do you do it? So again, Della Warren himself stated that this is a psychic process. It's not a machine process. It's based on psychic power. Now, I'm not sure if Ruth Drown ever said that or not. I'm sure she recognized the concept that it was part of the process, but she was getting into a lot of circuitry connection in the human body. She was working more in the human electromagnetic spectrum to a degree. She would put you in a circuit. You would sit in a chair that was kind of a circuit. And that's an interesting thing to research. There's some doctor who did that apparently and has now passed away. I don't know if there's any written information on them. Is the fact that he would test your circuitry. What is your body putting out? And if your body's not putting out enough energy, this electromagnetic chemical energy, well, you were sick. And he proved it time and time again. You bring up this energy and everybody got cured. And of course that makes sense because you are at this certain level. You could say that he was kind of opening the chakras and getting the energy to flow properly. And if your chakras are blocked, which they are with 99% of the people, your third eye is blocked, your chakra is blocked. Generally, you're talking about 60 to 70% on everybody. It's just normal. People freak out when you tell them that, but it's very normal that this is what happens with everybody because you're not taking care of yourself energetically. Probably most people are not well. You may work out a little. All this helps, and that means your chakras and third eye will be open a little more because physical and the psychic are connected. Because you're flowing energy. So if you're overweight, if you're out of shape, if you're sick, well, all of this brings down your energy functions. And of course, you can overcome that using a lot of our tools and going beyond that using our tools. That's the whole idea of having tools. So you don't have to necessarily focus on certain areas. But all of that means that if these aren't flowing properly, you're open up to illnesses and you will age much faster. So that's where De La Warr came from, which is still the concept going on in the Radionic Institute in the UK, which has expanded recently. But there just isn't a facility out there that is doing much to reach out to people. And you think they'd be reaching out as an organization to anybody involved in this. And I've never been contacted by them. I know I was going to join them many years ago and have bought instruments from them recently. They don't have anything to say to anybody. They don't ask you to join. They don't say anything. So I think that's a real fallacy. They don't seem to be having, and there's no group of radionic practitioners that are working together as far as I know. Nobody communicates. Nobody talks. Certainly would be a fascinating situation if somebody could get together on a kind of conference call and have 4 or 5 people, or at least 4 people, maybe more than that usually gets chaotic, talking about radionics, what they know, what they found. This certainly would bring the entire science to a much higher level and something that I'm going to try and do in the future, but nobody wants to do that. Radionic practitioners, most of them who are in business that you run into, that you know of, is a business, and they're not interested. You're competition. And I think that's kind of a faulty way to look at things. But the whole idea is they didn't have any of this. So that's all they did in their processes, and the reason why the technology didn't work that well for a lot of people was because it fell back psychically. Now, De La Warr and Ruth Drown, this process makes you develop your psychic abilities. So they were very psychic. They could move energies around and were quite successful from what we understand. Apparently, when De La Warr was hassled in a court case for practicing medicine without a license, he cured the judge's wife or child from some horrible disease, and of course he got off the case. So it just shows you what can be done. So the whole idea is there's an awful lot of anecdotal information of how well this stuff works, and because of legalities, people can't come out and say they've done this. It's amazing that we can allow doctors to come out and tell us that they can cure cancer when they can't, when their death rates have skyrocketed, and when we have nothing but problems, and they're pill pushers. And basically, who's doing the medical research? Well, basically the government is, and then some pharmaceutical company comes along, takes the information that we paid for, and takes that to make medicines that they then charge us millions of dollars for. It's just, this is the way society works. And it works like that because of our internationally, by the way, the international governments are all bought off and corrupt. Just as simple as that. It's not complicated. It's not a mystery why we have no cures, why we have no free. It's not a mystery whatsoever. And it has nothing to do with individual people. It has nothing to do with one particular country. The entire world works together in this. Why do you think China doesn't have free energy. Are they that stupid? They're not. They're digging coal, a dirty, filthy thing, because that's what they're allowed to do. I find it hard to believe they don't understand what hydrogen is. But they're not going to convert, because if China converts over to hydrogen and they actually run their entire country on that, everybody's going to say, well, the Chinese are doing it. How come we're not? Bye-bye, Miss Oil Company. Bye-bye. Well, the point is, oil is still used in a lot of stuff, but it's not going to be used en masse. So it's amazing how this is. So if you think that China is different than the rest of the world, this is the joke they play on you, so you keep buying armaments to make certain people rich. The bottom line is that they all work like that. Every single country is linked into this. They communicate, they go after people, etc. This is a known fact. If you don't know that, well, it's about time you do. And because there's a problem with radionics of being suppressed that stops people from doing a lot of things. So we'll see how we break out of all these things as it moves on in the future here, and we'll see exactly how all that works. But getting back to that, so they didn't have lasers. Lasers, I don't know, as I said, it hasn't even been the last 5 or 6 years that high-level frequency lasers have been available to the public at ridiculously low price. That's one of the great things about Chinese manufacturing, is that the fact that they grab onto anything apparently they can make money from. There's also a lot of problems with Chinese products, again, from radiation to all sorts of other problems we've discovered with them. You don't want to get herbs or stuff. Everything is polluted, crap in there, there's lead in everything. It's a real problem. But when it comes to electronics, most of this is fine, and they do build some great electronic stuff, and it basically all comes from there. It can come from other places, and they're not really that cheap in labor that people think it is. But that's the way it is done, and we have this availability today. And of course, lasers are only used by very advanced people who know what it is. Most people who build radionic instruments are at base level. They're pretty much at 5th grade electronic knowledge, and they put together a lot of junk. And that's what they put to. They put a bunch of stuff together in a big glob of glue saying this is a great attractor of energy. Well, of course, that's nonsense. And if you're accumulating energy from the atmosphere, you got a real problem. You have to go much higher than that. And of course, you have to change the molecular structure of electronics, and you have to use higher energies like we do. Tachyons, neutrons, and even we're working with gravitons now. These are all very weak energies, but you don't need a lot of them. If you were able to grab them at high levels, they would pretty much destroy the Earth. So the whole idea is you only need a tiny, tiny bit of these things to move this kind of very special energy that we're talking about. So the point is that when you put a witness on something, that's what happens. There's no transfer of energy to speak of. You're doing it psychically, which weakens you and is a very bad way of doing it. So now, if you're using things like our energy cells and a lot of our other tools, well, the point is these work pretty good on a very basic level. They're designed to pick up energies. They vibrate at very high levels. So all you're really doing is drawing that energy into you or amplifying what we provide you. So that gets by all of these problems, and why having a tuning device is really counterproductive in the long run. Unless you're getting a whole bunch of features and you know what you're doing. But it takes work. Why bother? What you want is results. So if you have the radionic rate, the actual number sigil code, if you have that, that's all you need. You don't need anything else. You're drawing that energy way from a pure energy source out in the cosmos. You're drawing it into it, and you're projecting it at whomever that target is, whether it's yourself or not. Now, our energy cells work like this. We have radionic codes built into them. We have all these sigil energies, meaning pictographic images that create energies. And of course, if you have, which is what 99% of our energy cells are, you have the cosmic code on it. That's your code, which means the energy in that cell, which is being drawn out from pure sources in the cosmos, is now going into there and being transferred directly to you, because your cosmic code is unique to you only. That's your telephone number. That is your cosmic telephone number that only you have. So that's how it works. So the whole idea with witnesses is that how do you get, once you've created the perfect witness, how do you get it into the machine and start using it? And then how is this broadcast out? Now, there are answers to all of it, and I could spend hours and hours explaining the process, and we do this in our courses, Because it's up to you whether you want to listen to certain things or not in the courses. But the whole idea is I'm going to teach you everything so you understand the concepts of these things. So you can judge new products, somebody else's, how things are working for you. But you have to have a background. How do you know if something is quality if you're not an expert in the field? Let's say you like cars. Well, you got to own cars. You got to own lots of cars. You can't say, well, yeah, I've only owned Fords. I've only owned Toyota. No, you got to know all the cars. How do cars work? Well, that's what an expert's all about. Well, I know that this concept doesn't make sense because I'm a person who owns all these cars. So if you put square wheels on a car, well, it don't make no sense. So that's right. But the average person, what would you know? Now, obviously, that's a very simplistic model, but if you didn't know anything about cars, you'd say, well, it doesn't matter, square wheels. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? It doesn't roll away from you. So the whole idea is that these are the kind of things that you have to look at, but you need to have that background. So the whole idea is when you lay something on top of a machine, you've got a real problem there. While you're getting some contact with the plate, you've got to get the energy into the machine. And what's more important, if it's a dial machine, you want to get it through the dials. The energy has to flow from, well, it's not the in plate per se. It's what you put on the in plate. Yes, the in plate flows into the machine in a proper way, going from one dial to the other in a sequence. But, well, you're not tuning into what the plate is, are you? You're tuning into what the witness is. So you're dialing in what the witness is that's connected to the in plate that goes to the dials and then ultimately goes to the out dials. Or what really should be going to an actual amplifier, which then projects it out. These are all the things that need to be done for people to understand the entire process. So this is the reality of how it works. So if you lay something on a plate, you're getting very little transfer of energy into the unit until you psychically pull it through the unit. Now, how much are you pulling through? What degree of that is? What percentage of that witness are you able to psychically pull through? These are the other bigger questions as well. But it's just a bad technology. It's a bad technology because you're getting back into that psychic realm. Now, we're trying to stay out of the psychic realm. We're trying to get into the higher consciousness realm, which is not psychic power. It's a whole new level of empowerment. Psychic power is primitive and limited. Consciousness power is unlimited. And they do work together, but there's a lot of factors, and we'll get into that another. So that's the problem with laying things on a witness plate or even on your out plate, which could be your rubbing plate is getting. So what kind of connections? Let's say you got a strong energy going through the unit, and it's going to the out plate. Well, how is that out plate connecting to your witness you just placed on? Well, you've got the same problem again. That the energy flowing out of the machine is flowing out to them in a psychic connection basis instead of a higher consciousness basis, which is assisted by technology. So I hope everybody gets that. Maybe a little confusing to people that don't understand that, but this is a complicated field. This is a field that requires a lot of understanding. And tuning isn't just putting a number on the dial. I remember some really fools said, my 4-year-old loves to dial your machines. It's hilarious. The point is that's not. Children, particularly at that age, don't have any consciousness to understand the process. You have to know, what are they tuning into? Mickey Mouse? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And of course, these parents are stupider than their children because they have no idea how to tune these. So this is all the nonsense that goes on out there. And they think just because you get a spin on a pendulum or you get a stick that you were at the correct setting for that dial. Well, you're not. And it's a horrible crutch. You'd be better if you concentrated psychically to do it. We're going to talk about how to tune a psychic radionic machine as well. We'll get into that, and we have some tools we're coming out with that explains that. So, and you can basically understand that from when I get into that new lecture. But there's a lot of ways. This is the technology of the future, people. It is no question. We've went through the electromagnetic spectrum. We've done what we can with it. We only understand a certain percentage of that as well. Basically, certainly this can be manipulated. And of course, the human brain is sensitive because it's trying to pick up all these alternative energies out there. So you can use these kind of weapons, microwave weapons, because, they mess with your head. I don't know why that would be surprising. And they cause a lot of delusions, a lot of problems. panic and everything else, because your mind is a sensing tool. And if you put in a lot of very high level toxic sensing, it's going to drive you nuts, because you're supposed to be a highly sensitive device. So if you overdo it, you're going to have problems. But that is not really creating something. We're talking about going to the next level here. Affecting matter and destroying matter is pretty easy to do. Anybody can destroy something. I can give you anything, a bomb, a car, a dump truck, whatever you want, a bulldozer, and you can go and bulldoze down anything. Go and bulldoze a house down. That may be a classic house. Maybe somebody took 10 years to build it and finish everything inside. Well, I got a bulldozer. I'm Gomer. I'm going to take it out. Take me, what, 2 minutes? Just drive it right through. So the whole idea is anybody can do that. And that kind of technology the human race is good at, which is just massive amounts of. This is, of course, what happens when you get $1 trillion military. The problem is that if you want to destroy everything, well, that's not that difficult to do. Well, there's plenty of ways of doing it in many different ways. But that's not really what anybody wants. You don't win a war by having a giant hole left where that is. Nobody wants to do that. That's not the way things are done. So that idiot way of functioning is pretty much how so many people function. The whole idea is to mold and build things. So if you were to build that house, and you would have to have multiple skills. Do you know how to pour concrete? Do you know how to carve wood? Do you know how to put up this structure this way? Electricity, plumbing. It's quite a task, and this could take months to years to build. How long does it take to destroy? Minutes. So it's a big difference there. So we're the builders. Radionic people are the builders, the shapers, the makers. And the whole idea is that this takes time and quality to do. So it is not difficult. I think this is the problem. This is the ultimate science, the ultimate thing to get involved with. So it should be exciting, and people should invest in this. People spend $5,000, $10,000 to buy golf clubs, and another 10 to 15 to join a club so they can golf every weekend. They spend $300 on a pair of golf shoes and golf balls, and they go to golfing classes and spend hundreds of dollars. They even go to, weekend or even months retreats that teach you that, training camps for golfing, and they'll spend thousands on this. So the fact is that if you don't want to invest that into something that can really change your life, get the proper equipment, train yourself properly, well, you're just going to get the basic results. And that's what most people want. They want, quick fix technologies. And of course, we offer this. But if you really want to be a master, you have to dive into this. Train yourself. Get every course we do. Take the basic training. It's all laid out there. We're still working on getting things organized perfectly, but I have on the website, you have Dr. Thor's training courses. There are 2 pages of these. Follow these correctly and you'll be trained in all the basics. You have the exact how to center yourself. You have the psychic occult gym. This is how you train yourself, plain and simple. This is like going to a golf training course and you sit there and you hit balls all day. Well, that's right. That's what you have to do. Now, maybe you want to get out there and play on the course, but, it should be interesting and fun when you learn to go to a, quote, driving range, as they call it, and you practice hitting balls. Now, you can't practice hitting balls on a regular game because that's where the game is played. So you can't get 100 balls and shoot them into the golf course. Other people are trying to play. Well, it doesn't work like that. You go to the driving range. So this is how you learn. And people spend lots of money doing that. So the cheapness of so many people that don't want to invest in this kind of ultimate technology is you are doing that at your own risk, because you ain't getting the technology you need. And it's coming to the point, if you don't have this kind of technology, you will not survive. Between the massive amount of created illnesses, the horrible economy that has been created from all this, and the general police state that we live in that wants to make you a slave, if you don't have these technologies, good luck to you, because you're going to fail. You need this techno-shaman edge in life. We've created sophisticated, advanced products. This isn't mumbo-jumbo dancing naked in the woods. This is refined technology that has been used for many hundreds of years by special, highly advanced alchemists, and of course, even by very advanced societies. They all use this kind of energy to create what they want to manifest in their life or to create physical structures even. So all of this is exactly what is going on with this type of technology. So this is a fan. The fact that you are listening to this shows that you are a person who has been given the opportunity to take control of your life and create what you want. Become what you want, not what society wants you to be. Not getting caught up in their false science, their false everything that goes with that. All of the falseness that society creates. You get caught in that. And you don't escape. It's the black hole that this reality, it sucks you in and you don't get out. Don't get sucked in. Use the technologies. Do your studying. And this is a lifetime study to a degree. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to study all your life to get results. You'll get results very quickly. But what you want is master results. And become a master is something you have to study and practice all the time. There's nobody out there, particularly when it gets into sports and other things, that doesn't sit there and practice all the time. From what I understood, Tiger Woods used to go to the driving range. He would hit balls for 5 or 6 hours a day. Well, here's a guy that's a master golfer. So the whole idea, he still was perfecting his skills. And this goes with everybody. Olympic athletes practice all the time, 6 days a week. Other people do the same thing. You want to keep your psychic powers up. You want to be a good remote viewer. Well, you got to do it every day. And you got to constantly build that psychic muscle for that particular area. The same thing with radionics. You got to be doing radionics every day, tuning, using your pendulums, doing occult gym practices, using your visualization tools that we offer. We have lots of tools we offer, and these are not products that sell very well. Well, if you're not getting results, you're not pumping the iron. So, everybody wants to be the great, massive bodybuilder. And, I got 10 minutes today. I'm going to pump that iron for 10 minutes. How come I don't look like them other guys? Well, because you haven't done it. It's as simple as that. So there's really no difference whether you're pumping physical muscle iron or whether you're pumping radionic muscle. It's all the same. You've got to get involved with it. You got to know it. You got to communicate with others that are like that. Stay in touch with this organization. Try and communicate with others. And we're hoping to expand this to a degree, but nobody gets together. They just don't do it. I've tried this for 40 years now. Even had a Radionic Institute that nobody bothered with. And of course, we were suppressed by criminal people who made sure that the organization didn't do well, but we still did well. We did amazingly well. But that's what happens in this world when you deal with these rotten criminals that everybody supports and that this whole society is about. So it isn't the politicians, it isn't the military or the police, it's your next door neighbor. He's the enemy, or she, or whatever. Understand that and stop getting centered. Those are the people that empower everybody else. So this is the kind of problem that happens. So how do you get over this? Well, the bottom line is that you have to be in communication and touch the energy fields, meaning every time that you contact this organization, every time you go to our website, you're connecting with the energy of that organization and the people there, and empowers you. People have told me this all the time. They just start things and make contacts and go to the website. Their life starts to change. It's quite interesting, but not really. The energy is there. It's all positive. It's all changing. It's all good. And whatever you're seeking, you just do that. I hear this all the time from people. So the whole idea is that that's how you do it. Now, because this technology is so advanced and so powerful, and since they haven't been really able to stop me 100%, they have created a whole bunch of evil people creating a bunch of junk technology that are out there. So that's the other thing. So it's a minefield. And frankly, shouldn't it be? Do you want everybody to have the tech that's here? Do you want this to be so easy that your criminal, messed up next door neighbor can get involved in it and they can have the same kind of tech you have? Well, the point is, you don't want that. That's how the world works. That's how the universe works. There's always been an initiatory process. These gods were created that we have from ancient time to modern. Well, you access the energy from God forms through specific practices. These are generally what priests were taught to do. Is this religious in nature? No, really what you're doing is empowering yourself and empowering, quote, followers of that particular God. Because what you really expect from that God is what it really comes down to. Well, you're following that God because he's going to shine the light on you. You're going to die and go to heaven. So you're not doing this out of some altruistic belief system. You're doing this so you get the payoff. And that you're protected from the negative stuff. I mean, that's how it all works. And of course, that's how it's worked from ancient time. You can't come down as an advanced person or even as an extraterrestrial and set up a bunch of schools for people. It doesn't work like that. What do you set up? Religions. And then, of course, when you're dealing with the lowest level of the universe, the essence of human beings, which is really this foul mixture of puke, that human beings are made of, you're going to have a lot of problems because it's something that is easily diverted into negative practices. So nothing is easy. You just can't go out into the universe and expect the species that are there to operate at high levels. It's just the way it is. And to a certain amount, this is, of course, if you look at religion and boil it down to that, well, isn't really that's it? And of course, that's the, quote, free will of it all. That's the fact that you have a choice, which of course is a contradiction in religion. Well, God knows everything. Well, then why bother doing anything if you know the outcome? So we are fudgy logic. We can go in any direction. We can believe any fools we want. And that's why I talk about so many times about what's happening in society. What you need to look at things from a proper perspective so that you aren't waylaid into the fraud that this society gives you. And the fraud is much more than your politicians in regular life. The fraud goes down to all those people who are in the alternative industries, whether that's radionics or healing or Reiki or who is real? What are they doing? What are their intentions? I mean, these are people that are still operating out of the old paradigms and belief systems. And what they've done is say, well, yeah, I'm a Reiki practitioner. Yeah, but what are your belief systems like? Well, I was raised a Roman Catholic. I'm very much into that belief system. So the whole idea, this is what you're going to run into. Well, you can guarantee that person ain't very powerful. So maybe they're able to take the basic tools and produce something, but are they powerful? Are they able to do anything? Well, we don't know. And it comes down to, unfortunately in life, is you have to try something for yourself, particularly since so many things are individually based. Reiki is based on the training and empowerment of that person. Can they link with you? Maybe they're a great healer, but they can't do nothing for you. That doesn't mean that they are not a healer. It means they can't work with you. And until lots of people report the same thing, and then you measure, well, they have a, 50, 60% success rate? Well, that means there's 40%. So if you go there, you have to understand, well, maybe it won't work for you. And you just be very open-minded. You never block energies. Yet you don't believe someone is so super until they produce results. And this is another problem. I hear stories after stories, and I don't see any manifestations of it. We trusted some big-mouth crazy guy who thinks he's Jesus, saying he heals everybody. You just call him up and say it's done. He really does think he's Jesus. He's a complete nut job. None of his stuff has worked. We've had 8 people go to him, 8 failures. So this is the way it all goes. This is how these things done. I got his technology. I tested it for many months. It doesn't work. Now, does it work for other people? I don't know, but I've had a lot of people go there. I would never recommend this person because they can't produce any results from anybody who went there open-minded, seeking assistance, and this was for healing. So this is what you have to understand. This is the bigger picture. And these are consciousness-based machines, and you need to understand that. You also need to understand nobody seems to be thinking about what makes these machines work. Most of them are copies of other person's machines. There's very little updates that have ever been done to radionics in its 120-year history now. Very little changes in it. It's all basically the same. There's only been a minor few things changed. That there really hasn't been anybody coming through and explaining exactly how this stuff works better and what they can do to produce better results. I make it, I like it, you buy it, it works. And again, the problem is these people buy into these technologies and their whole life is on it. So they can't come and say this stuff is garbage because their entire life is based on it. But all of these machines that are built by positive people, and we just don't know who those are, all work for you because they're consciousness-based machines. Now, to what level is always the guess here. And you don't know until you try it yourself. And most of the time, it's the person using it that can't access the energies. The energies are there. Can you access it? Well, you have to train yourself. You have to be in the right head to do it. It's all part of it. But generally, all the energies, if you're getting something from a positive organization or a positive person, will help you. And I don't think there's always about, 2 to 5% of people that I call the rockheads. Nothing works for them. You could probably shoot them with a bullet and they say, well, that bullet doesn't work. So the whole idea is that but that was with most everything in life. The rest of the 95% of people, everybody's gotten certain benefits. And you got to understand these are not magic lamps. You're not going to rub them and things pop up in front of you. You have to look at how your life's been going. And you're going to have ups and downs. And a lot of people things happen to them. And the point is it something that is unavoidable? You can get in a car accident and say, well, damn, that protection amulet didn't work for me. That energy cell. Well, it did work for you because if you didn't have the energy cell, you'd be dead now or crippled. So don't look at life should be perfect because there's a whole bunch of other things happening out there. You get on a freeway and there are thousands of people on that same freeway. Oh, well, this is going to make sure nothing happens to you. Well, that's right. Meaning in the end, you should escape the best you can. Hopefully, you won't get into any accidents at all. But if you run into something that's 100% unavoidable, you will still escape it with minor problems instead of being killed. That's the difference. So, it's all the way you approach things and understanding the value of how these kind of tools work and looking at them for the value that they have in the bigger picture. And then you have to say, well, how much of it? If you have consistently bad luck, well, most likely you're highly crossed and you have to be using an uncrossing cell, which I recommend to everybody. I use them all the time myself. You got to get rid of the negative energy because that will spin you into problems. And if you're trying to have this negative energy around you and you're trying to send positive energy into it, well, you're constantly out of battle there and you're going to come to an even. That's why you'll get into an accident and you'll survive it, but you'll still have problems. So you got to look at the bigger picture. The whole idea is to keep the energy around you spinning in a positive clockwise circle, and you're going to attract the good stuff to you. And there's even good stuff in a freeway accident that may have 50 cars involved because you're going to be that 50th car that only had minor problems happen to it while other people may be killed or God knows what. So that's the reality of it. You got to understand all these things, understand the process, and hopefully now you kind of understand what witnesses are and the flow of them. So the best way is to get energy into your machine. Nobody does this except me. We will be having devices like this that you can add onto your machine, etc. We're going to be making a lot of accessories. We understand there's a lot of machines out there and you can kind of update them. We're also going to be making energy sigils that you place under your radionic machines to take out a lot of the negativity that are particularly any orgone-based machines have in them. So these orgone-based machines are intrinsically foul energies, but you can transmute those using our special technology. So you get this particular plate and you slide it under your machine or you place your machine on top of it, and this will negate the energy. In 24 hours, it'll be changed the molecular structure of that machine to a higher energy pure machine, and you will be protected. So watch for that coming in the future. There's so much that is in development that it is just kind of mind-boggling how much technology I've had and still have. Yet it's difficult to get this out to the public. It's always difficult producing anything and takes an awful lot of work. But all this is coming, so watch for that. We know a lot of people have machines, but if you're using machines out there, you are in trouble. If it's not ours, if you're not purifying those machines, clearing them, and changing the molecular structure, especially if you're using pretty much everything out there except for a few machines, you've got a toxic box of garbage there. And it isn't funny, tied into some very negative and possibly evil energies that some of these bigger manufacturers have been putting out for 30 years now. And you're the lucky one. You got one. You probably paid a lot of money for that piece of junk. So the whole idea is that we're going to solve that problem as well. So stay tuned. Until next time.